Good evening, everyone. It's nice to see all you. Thanks for being here. Thanks for joining us online. Also, I'm Kendra Stewart, Director of the Riley Center for Livable Communities at the College of Charleston. And I appreciate everybody coming to our Union Pier Stakeholder Advisory Committee meeting. I want to make note that the Freedom of Information Act requirements have been met for this meeting. And I would like to begin by allowing the committee to introduce themselves because we also have a few people serving as proxies this evening. And we have a new member to our committee. So, Edward, would you like to start?
Sure. Edward Kelly, I'm South State.
I'm in tomorrow to represent the Gatlinburg Coalition.
I'm Wade Cogle, Mayor Charleston.
Barbara Melvin, South Carolina Ports.
Baker James, Coastal Conservation.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Marvetta Daniels, and I'm with the East Side Neighborhood Community Development Corporation.
Winslow Hasty with Historic Charleston Foundation.
Good evening, Laquita Jenkins, Planning Commission.
Hello, I'm Sam Spence from the Preservation Society here for Brian Turner.
Ray Huff, retired architect.
Mark Boreal, Historic Ansonboro, substitute for Jerry Shaw.
Courtney Jones, Explore Charleston or the Convention and Visitors Bureau, substitute for Doug Warner.
Thank you. All right, thank you very much. I want to note that this is a committee meeting, so participation will be only amongst committee members. We're grateful to have people joining us to watch. And there will be future meetings for public participation, and hopefully some of you attended the last 2 days to provide some public input on this process. But for this meeting, it is just discussion and question and answers for our committee members. So the first order of business is we have minutes from the last meeting sent out to everybody. Can I get a motion to approve those minutes? Thank you, Vince. Laquita seconds. Thank you. Any discussion, corrections, questions? Can I get a call to vote? All in favor of passing? Say aye. Any opposed? Thank you. The ayes have it. All right. Ally Moriarty from the Riley Center is going to give an update on the Community Advisory Council.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. It's great to be back with y'all. See some new faces in the room, which is really exciting. Thanks to those of you who are able to come out to our public workshops over the last 2 days. They've been really great. As the committee knows, we launched a Community Advisory Council. Their first meeting was January the 8th. And we have around 65 members of that council right now. So it's a very large group, really exciting. Over 50 of them drove through the Biden traffic, if you all remember that day in Charleston, to come to the Riley Center for that meeting. The first meeting was really just a report out. So it was getting to know folks, having people identify, using one word, what they care about related to Union Pier. We have graduate students who are analyzing all of that and can provide that data to you all soon. And then we just talked to them about the process and answered some questions. Future meetings will involve a little bit more interaction. So we're hoping to use this group as a focus group to get some feedback. Many of your organizations on the committee are represented on the Stakeholder Advisory Committee. Shout out to Vince. There are a lot of people from Gadsdenboro. Generally, we only have one member per organization representing, and everyone on that committee represents an organization. I'm just picking on Vince because Gadsdenboro has a bunch of neighborhood associations that fall under their umbrella, and I think every building has a representative, which is great. So that's really the update. Thanks.
Christopher Morgan from the City of Charleston Planning Department is going to provide an update on the city planning process.
Kendra? So yes, we've got a lot going on with the city plan. The next engagement for the city plan is going to be our public forum that we're going to have on Tuesday, February 6th from 6 to 8 p.m. at the ILA. And this is going to be a little bit different. It's going to be a situation where there are presentations and then there'll be some community input. It won't be kind of around the room like some of the other ones have been, but we're looking forward to seeing lots of folks there. We are on target to keep working on that and also to be delivering a draft of the waterfront redevelopment category for our comprehensive plan that relates to all these waterfront sites by the, probably end of March, early April, so that we can, have that to help us with all our deliberations on all these things that are going on our waterfronts. And, just a quick update also on our zoning ordinance, the assessment and the consultant's assessment of our existing zoning ordinance is going to be made public very soon. And we are going to have engagement in March with the consultants so everybody can understand kind of what they found from that and get more input into that process. And then they'll really get working on the whole new ordinance. So happy to answer any questions anybody might have, but look forward to seeing all of those events.
I would like to call up our planner, chief principal, charge of all, Fred Merrill from Sasaki, to provide an update on our plan.
Thank you. It's an honor to be here. I'm Fred Merrill. I'm the principal in charge of my illustrious team, Sasaki, Nelson, Gordon Woltz. We have Thomas Woltz and Serena Nelson right here. Several, Paul and Kevin, and then Mark, Kevin, and Alan Ward, Eliza, Sue. Just call us the planning team. Keep it simple. But we have a big team. I wanted to do a couple things. I wanted to brief you on the last 2 days, because we've had 2 days of very interesting public engagement. I won't try to summarize it all for you. We did bring a few of the 40 boards that we had spread out, visitor center, and then Columbus Center, they were.
The Camden room and
Okay, so we've had 2 of these engagement sessions. It's all going to be on the website very soon. I'll give you a little summary, if you can certainly have some dialogue about that, but I would say there were kind of 2 parts of the engagement. Because the goal was really to let people come in, kind of cast our net broadly and deeply, get people to come in and engage. We wanted to kind of really, let people just come. There was no sales pitch, there was no plans, there was no, here's what we want. We just wanted to listen to people. So we walked them through a series of very simple exercises to find out the kind of land uses and development types, what their vision is, what they would like to see, and what they would not like to see being here. And then Nelson Gordwalls had a beautiful set of boards, you can see some of them here, about the history of the site. And I think there was about 15 or so of these boards, and I think people really, got into this stuff. And it was really, I'm not gonna go through all of them, but I mean, they were really quite an educational effort. And we're trying to uncover lost histories, all sorts of things that, we need to bring forward in this plan. So, I don't know, Mark, you want to say anything to me? We'll just keep going. Okay, yeah. Our team's all here, we can all pause again. What's that? I'll just read the summary. It's kind of like drinking from fire hose. A lot of people, a lot of ideas. I'm not going to try to give you an official summary because we just are still digesting all this information. So I'm going to be transcribed, will all be on the website. But I think there are a couple of themes that are, I'll take a risk here, a couple of themes that are starting to emerge and not somewhat that surprising, but there's a lot of common ground. But there are also some very different views of what should happen here. So our goal as planners and designers is to try to get as much convergence on consensus as possible, recognizing that 100% consensus is a fantasy. It's never going to happen, but how much can we get? The more the better. And at some point, you just got to make a decision and kind of go. So we're still in this stage of trying to gather ideas and understand everybody's concerns. But I would say there's a couple things that are clear. First of all, the site's technically very challenging. There are a lot of issues with that site. We won't get into that now. That'll be the subject of our March workshop at the terminal. We'll get into more details in March. But there's a lot of challenges with sea level rising. We have the peninsula plan and the water plan are doing great work a little bit ahead of us, which are informing what we're doing. So that's really helpful. Dale Morris will have, I'm sure have some, pay attention to what those folks are doing because it's really useful stuff. And it's guiding our work to some extent. But I think, a couple of things I'll just say I think are pretty self-evident and that most people would agree with. Public waterfront access and green space. Kind of a no-brainer, right? I mean, you gotta make this open to the public. this notion of what I call full spectrum housing. There's a lot of demand for housing, a lot of talking about housing from, single family to multifamily, workforce, support, attainment housing, the new proper word, attainment housing. I didn't know that, so educated the other day. Anyway, housing is more affordable, basically. So that housing is a huge issue there. Appropriate scale and massive and size is the look and feel of Charleston. A lot of people actually really in their DNA about this thing. They want this thing to be the look and feel. Some people said, just take Handsoneboro and flip it over and give you more Handsoneboro, and then other people are like, no, you can't. So this look and feel and scale is really going to be interesting. But basically, I would say nobody wants big tall buildings on the waterfront. There's other places in Charleston for those. I'm just repeating what I believe I'm reflecting on a lot of other places. And then celebrate lost histories, lost African American history. The Steel Fleet is one little example of that kind of history that needs to be brought forward. So the idea of a landscape, a rich landscape that has places for celebration, to allow future generations to express their own aspirations, as well as to bring it back. You want to go look backwards and look forward at the same time, if we can. And then this idea I call localness, a place for local businesses, for minority businesses, incubators, places where nobody said we want national retail. We did that very deliberately, but we got very few dots on the national retail thing. So it was all about localness, and I think that's kind of interesting. So, and then the hotel thing, I don't even want to go there, but the hotel thing seems very, very controversial. Some people love hotels, some people think we got a lot of them. The hotel thing will be probably a point where we're not all on the same page yet, but that was a big part of it. So anybody from my team want to have a fair summary? Again, it was done to find a glean, like I think we had hundreds of people over these 2 days. I think we got a lot of good engagement. This board, I wanted to just draw your attention to for a moment, because these were preliminary design principles that we kind of put out there based on some work that Sasaki, Nelson Woodwell, and James Lima. I'm sorry, I forgot to mention James Lima right here. My bad. James Lima, talking on our team as well. But these principles dealing with histories, Mosquito Fleet, African diaspora, local Black business culture, connected waterfront, reestablishing connections to the waterfront, community and civic discovery, playful landscape. This will all be on the website. Resilient infrastructure. The water plan is going to bring forward some really interesting ideas and concepts, recommendations of the city that you'll have to decide how you want to deal with that. And then contextual character, and then lastly, a place for all. This is a really important thing. We want this to be a place where everybody feels comfortable. Everybody feels that they would bring their family down there, even though it's part of Charleston off of their family. So this got a pretty strong support, and as you can see, everybody just said pretty much yes, but they put all their dots. This is a priority, so like a scale of 1 to 10. So we got a lot of people saying, so I think we got this down pretty good, and we'll use these principles in the future as the planning gets more into the planning as a way to evaluate how these alternative options are coming out. So we're in a process, and take a little time. But I think we're off to a really, really good start. So I'll just leave it at that, unless anybody else wants to. Yes, sir.
You know how I feel about infrastructure, so I'll wait until March. You made the one comment about, we're not all gonna be together on hotel, it was kind of specific.
Again, this is me taking my chin up a little bit, so I'm trying to be a little bit, I don't want to just because your milk toast up here. But yeah, I'd say that, yeah. I know, look, hotels generate a lot of taxes, a lot of revenue, there's a lot of great things about hotel. And right now, we're agnostic. We're just trying to channel everybody's thinking. And there's a lot of issues. If you can see the board, there's 40 of these boards. We had, residential, we had cultural, we had food and beverage, we had, institutional, all the different uses, and you can see where people are, where they put their dots, is where they're starting to gravitate to. So I don't think there's a lot of surprises here, to be honest. I think we know a lot already. But I think we have to do this, and I think we'll do it again in March. What we'll be doing in March, we're gonna have to have an all-day session out at the terminal. Thank you for letting us do that. We're gonna have some of you guys, little spinner bands, or people can sign up in advance and get kind of a tour of the site. But one thing we've learned, we're from Boston, our guys in New York. A lot of people here don't have a visual image of Union Pier. I always ask Uber drivers, like, what's Union Pier? They go, they get all different answers, right? Like, oh, it's that thing down by the park, or, it's where the pollution, but well, what do you think about that? I don't know, we need more housing. Yes, Uber drivers. But, anyway, I think it's gonna be interesting. And so I think we're setting a foundation, and come back in March, we're gonna shift gears a little bit. So this is all about history and asking people for, kind of use, what's your vision? We have a list, like, what's your vision for Union Pier? We got hundreds of sticky notes. What are uses you don't want to see? We got a lot of those. What kind of uses do you want to see? We got a lot more of those. So it was interesting to do this. So we have a lot of good, like law, social science, experiment data, data, But, we're aware of what's happening with that. I think people see this as a really important place for the future of Charleston. Let's get this right. Let's do it right. I supposed to do questions or not?
From the committee.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, from.
So
the
are
first two
you
rows.
going to go over each of those points during the next 2 weeks?
During when?
Are you going to go through each of those points you're making here, like history, later on? Or is that it for today?
That's kind of big for
Not
today.
tonight.
Yeah,
Are you going to do it later?
well, it'll be on the website, and they'll be reoccurring in the presentation, so.
Yeah, but there are some basic points that should be talked about before.
Okay. I just want to kind of,
Go further.
Or it would be helpful to sort of outline the community engagement process
oh,
from start to finish. That might help.
who's best to do that? Community will be it.
Yeah.
Maybe Bob can help me on that.
So with the February, both the advisory committee meetings in February.
Yeah, so that's a good point. We could get into this more, reach a little bit more in February.
Yeah.
Or you will have had a chance to digest.
Yeah, we just haven't digested anything yet, so I'm speaking a little off the cuff.
So let me just describe, just for the process itself, we're going to have another of the workshops that Fred alluded to in March that will be focused mostly on the site itself and understanding the constraints and opportunities on the site, meaning hydrology, soil, all of the things that have to do with the resilience strategies that are going to come from the water plan and other things. So people can actually listen and be presented those site characteristics and then be able to be on the site to see it themselves. So that's sort of the next phase. And at the advisory council, which I think is probably helpful for your reference, is we'll use the advisory council as a focus group, taking those inputs, like what we're going to do to finalize the design principles, and do we have them right? And use that group, which you are a part of, I believe, to be able to then decide what are the final design principles we're going to use, and it's going to drive the plan going forward. So once we get to that point, there's another set of workshops once we get what would be the plan or the draft plans and alternatives. And there's a piece that I'm now stepping on your agenda here, but
The way to think about this planning process, maybe in 3 parts. Part 1, which we're in now, is called analysis, data gathering, absorption. That's part 1. Part 2 is, options. Part 3 is refinement and plan. It goes into the PUD process. That's kind of the big buckets that you make.
yeah, and at each part of those buckets, both this group and the advisory council are going to have places for you to comment on those particular elements before we get to the deliverables at each one of those.
Yeah.
So So again, my guess is not everybody's gonna agree either, and it will at least go through the sequence. So everybody gets an opportunity to have their input into that process. The other piece of it, I think, going forward is, how we're gonna, maybe if we have questions about it, ask Jane Klima to talk further about it, is in parallel to this, what we're trying to do is then develop a fairly sophisticated economic feasibility model that we then can test the ideas against. So that in fact, we've got a doable plan at the end of the day, right? So we don't end up with a plan that ultimately everybody likes, but is not either financially or economically feasible, right? So James that's his charge as part of the planning team, is to help us build that model, which we're gonna do in parallel to the work you're now seeing. So you're gonna have an analysis of all of the engineering work that's been done to date, all the engineering work that we have seen, all of the work that the city's done. That's one set of data that we're going to use. The public input is a second data set. And then the third is what the economic model looks like that allows us to evaluate what the choices are. So
Does that help? Yeah, and there's a lot of good information that's already been transmitted to us. It's very helpful. I should have also mentioned the SECO group, the Tika Robinson, part of the team. She is our community outreach leader. And she's working directly for the Riley Center, but we're kind of bonded as one big team. So she's making sure we're talking to the right people.
Has that March date been set up just quite yet, or?
Put March 5th, we're talking about doing, this time we did 2 days, which was, it was a lot. And some people got a little confused. We're thinking of doing a long 1 day thing on the 5th, maybe start maybe at 10 a.m. and go to 7, making this up right now, 10 to 7 p.m. So either all day. And then if you want to sign up for a tour, for very great, so you can help us show people the site. I think what was before, a lot of people haven't, a site's not a public place, got a big fence around it for a lot of good reasons. And not supposed to go out there. And food trips come in. So most people in Charleston really haven't experienced this site the way you go to Waterfront Park or, the African American History Museum with all that, So when you get out on that, the water is stunning. It's beautiful. It's like, wow, it's looking across the aircraft carrier. It's amazing. So anyway, please.
Brad,
I'm not having no presentation either. So.
I mentioned this at the workshop last night, but I think as we're thinking, or, as the constraints of the site are revealing themselves, obviously, I think it's in mid-February, we're hoping to get the water plan team's sort of final report or recommendations on how to address water and resiliency infrastructure on the site. That's obviously a huge thing. We've always said, we've got to be leading water first with this, any development proposal here. The other piece that I've mentioned before, but I really think we need some real confirmation on, and I don't quite know how to do that, but is around this issue around single family, because it continues to come up. People, you hear that we want the extension of Ansonboro, which is a natural inclination for Charlestonians to want, particularly along the waterfront. But we've been hearing, oh, well, maybe you can't do that because of the environmental. But it would be nice, rather than just to have a kind of rote response, to actually have a documented in some way through EPA, DHEC, or any kind of environmental testing. And I don't know what information has been gleaned from what Lowe has put together previously, but rather than just us trusting that can't be done, it would be nice to have sort of confirmation, verification about the ability to do single family, because I'm getting a lot of feedback from people in the community, as I'm sure you all are, that not necessarily the entire thing has to be single family, even though of course there are some people who believe that.
Yeah.
But can we do it at all? And if so, where?
Right. Okay. Well, that's a fair question. We will bring, we're in the process now of assimilating a lot of the previous work that was done, which is very helpful. So we don't have to reinvent any wheels, and getting a little bit of new information. But I think it's safe to say the site's going to have to be developable. You're going to have to tap the site in some way and bring in fill, and that's, that's all I'm gonna say. That's all I'm gonna say with any certainty, but it's not gonna be, inexpensive. So,
So just one, I mean, Wendell, to your direct point, I'm not sure, because I don't think the regulators are gonna give us a letter saying yes or no at this point. But we've got, I think, a reasonable amount of the engineering data that we can present, so it's transparent. So if the answer is ultimately no, you can't do that. people-
Or no here, but maybe yes here.
Exactly, so.
Probably not.
Wouldn't rule it out.
Yeah, so the point being is, I think we've got enough data and we've gone, Fred and his team and the previous engineers have gone through a long conversation about what this means. And so I think we'll be able to give people information about that.
I think the reality of it is, if it's in private hands, in South Carolina, you're gonna need to be, you're gonna wanna be under a voluntary cleanup contract. And if you do a VCC, that is a governing document, does not allow single family detached.
And that's the information so far that we've gotten, but again, we'll present that information so everybody can see it and, then at some point we'll make the determination, but.
another fun fact, everyone says it's 70-acre site. Well, it's not really 70 acres. A lot of that 70 acres is our piers, it's not land. And we're in the process of doing a pretty in the weeds analysis, and a lot of the work that was done for you before was very helpful, trying to draw that line, right? And so and then with the water plan work that's being done, the site's gonna get a little smaller. So, land and, so what land we're gonna be called the net developable or the net buildable, however you want to define it. That number, we're gonna try to have that number for the March meeting with a pretty high degree of accuracy. And then we can start, then James Lima and his team, we can start running some high level costing, we can start to iterate back and forth and, see what we get, but, it's, there's challenges out there for sure.
But for me, when managing projects, right now I have a very fuzzy timeline. So before I thought I had a better idea of how we were going to march forward. So you collected a significant amount of data over the last couple of days. And then we're hearing about March, but you can hear from Ray that as the advisory committee, we would like to be able to know more about what you learned after February. So from a timeline perspective, I'm not sure where we are right now going through. We all, when we first started this, felt the timeline was fairly tight.
We still on the same timeline, we're hoping it's a little tight, but.
Yeah, so
We're gonna keep going.
I'd like to see what that new timeline is.
In each iteration, we develop a new schedule, but we're essentially, we're still driving to the same timeline.
Yeah.
So we'll send you the schedule, so you can look at it.
Please do.
And
But for clarity, February is what, March is what?
so, well, February, March are only these, community workshops.
Okay.
So there's no decision making, there's none of that. We're collecting, once we get past the March one, they're gonna start developing the actual plan and plan alternatives, and then we get into what we hope to be sort of the May, June timeframe, where we'll have a plan available for people to review, and then at that point, depending on the level of consensus, the schedule to go forward for the city's approval.
We have this group, we have a community advisory council, it's a much more kind of grassroots, like earlier. A lot of. I mean, it is a lot. We now have a lot of friends. So, I mean, we're happy to just take questions, talk all you want, you don't have anything, this all will be up on the website hopefully next week, you'll be able to see the whole thing. We're gonna keep adding away, the website because of the breathing.
And one, we're gonna try to transcribe all of the things that are on the boards.
Yeah, I was gonna add, what does that tell you? I mean,
What does this tell us?
data wise?
To be honest, it's kind of what we thought we knew. I mean, to be honest, everybody.
Everything's just a 10.
Yeah, I mean, everybody just kind of said, yeah, if all the dots were over here, we might have said, well, maybe some of the principles aren't correct. Now, other people, there was another board where people could write new principles. I haven't been able to absorb that yet.
Yeah,
We
so-
might, this thing's gonna morph a little bit. So what I think what this did tell us, frankly, is that we kind of got out of the gate, we got some things basically right. But that's,
I mean, your description.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
But again, all of those boards are gonna be transcribed, all of those notes are gonna be
Yeah.
available. It's will be on the website, so, yeah, it's a ton of data.
And then there's a whole another, I mean, all these great boards that Nelson Burgos did, these history boards, there's a similar exercise that we've done there. It's just too much to show you tonight. You hate me if we try to show you all those boards.
And we should mention, these principles came out of engagement we've been doing since June or July. And past engagement that came
Right,
from the
right.
other
And,
processes.
you know, some of those, a few of those boards you want on the way out, you can look in the very back there, there's some of them. But it's a very, people love the city, they care a lot. I mean, as a planner and designer, we love this because you have a very engaged, citizenry that cares a lot about your city, obviously, so. And they should, it's a beautiful place.
Yeah, it reiterates, Kendra's point, these things should look familiar to this group, because these are basically restatements of the things you said in the first meeting, so.
That's a good, no, thank you, that's a good, yeah. There's so much information coming to my little brain in different ways, I'm barely able to process it, but the history and the land uses, I think, are now, I think people really appreciate the thought going into the historical analysis that Nelson Burgos did, which was really stunning work, and it was uncovered, it just brought to life what the rich history there is here and what we have to work with, so, and what we should respect and celebrate and try to move forward. James, Mr. Lino, our economics.
Further respond to the mayor's question, I think what we learned in the last few days is that you've made a lot of progress in the last year. I gave a talk here a year ago today, and there was a lot of concern. I think what people said is, we want a place that is civically generous in a way that Charleston feels welcoming and a great experience. And I think that that's sort of embodied in principles, that it's a place for more than anything.
The other thing, the other comment I just want to reinforce, this process, thank you, Barbara, for this is a different twist on a planning process. Typically, people like us would have a client, a city, or a developer, or hospital or institution with a piece of land, want to do something with it. That's the kind of the normal way this world works, and we understand, but and then you develop a plan, you do engagement, you try to convince the planning commission and the city council to approve your plan, and then you build it, right? In this case, we don't have that client. We have the Ports Authority as a landowner. We have the city as the land use regulator. And so, and we know the comprehensive plan Christopher's working on is going to have some very important paragraphs that we're going to rely on. I think we know those paragraphs are going to basically reinforce this mixed use concept broadly defined, okay? So, you know, I'll just put that out there. We don't have that developer or, you know, hospital or university, which we're like really good at doing that for those folks. So this is a little different deal. So we're going to bring you a lot of information. We're going to try and winnow and sift it and try to synthesize it, but it's not all going to be, you know, kumbaya. Just yes. But a lot of it will be good. I mean, overlap. Yeah.
I would add to that, your comment and say that you do have a constituency.
Oh,
And that
okay. Yeah.
constituency is vocal and not terribly diverse in terms of.
That's a better way to put it. Yeah.
The point of view.
Yeah.
And so the question becomes, how do you begin to engage a broader set of voices so that there's a better understanding of what might be possible? I think that's going to be.
Our client is the community broadly defined. Which makes this a little messier, a little more complex, but also very interesting. And I think at the end of the day, if we can do our job correctly, and I think we will, we'll have a stronger foundation to go forward. And then when a developer does come along from the Port Authority, a lot of the risk and the uncertainty will be taken out of the process. So they'll know the kind of land uses, the general look and feel, where the street should go. A lot of that stuff will be approved through the PUD process. And we've talked to Christopher and his folks about what kind of PUD this is going to be. It's going to be a little different because we don't have that very specific client that's going to, drive it the way.
Well, and Fred, I just wanted to add too, we can't forget that this is all gonna be informed by the city as well, because they are really in a bit of a reverse from the last time. They're leading these discussions as well, and what they want to see through Christopher's process and resiliency and new vision. So I think that we're all gonna benefit from that as well.
Exactly. Thank you for bringing that up. So it's a fascinating, as planners and designers, we just love this stuff.
You talked about working on this regional plan and the water plan. And my understanding is at the end of March or April, that project team will put out a power. That's gonna be the problem.
I don't know, Christopher, you wanna help me with that one? I'd rather have the city guy, you be answer than me.
So essentially, because of the public discourse that's going on about the Union Pier site and, our realization that other waterfront sites have similar issues, we've decided to make an amendment to our comprehensive plan. That's the guide document that kind of informs us how the city grows for the next 10 years. It's relatively new. It's adopted in October of 21 by council. But we're going to amend it because of these special circumstances. And in that document, there are land use guidelines, and there are different types of land uses described, and they are associated with maps in the document. And what we are proposing to do is create a waterfront redevelopment district in that document. And that will, like the other categories that are in there, about a dozen of them, it'll have a paragraph that roughly describes it. We'll probably have a little bit more text that describes how we came up with that paragraph. From the water plan, from public input, from the unique circumstances of all those waterfront areas, things like that. But it will have parameters, things like recommended densities, recommended elevations, potentially, ways to address, waterfront and, resilience and things like that. So that, I know it sounds like a lot, one paragraph. But dense one paragraph. So we will have some explaining paragraphs. That'll be-
And I don't know if that'll be ready for our March meeting or not, but hopefully. Without that, would be the first table you see when you come in. Anyway.
Thank you.
So you want. Other questions, comments? Kendra, are we a bit?
Thanks.
We're happy to hang around as long as you like.
Great, thank you. And I know Bob was next on the agenda, but he's already said what's next, so we'll leave it at that. Any final questions or comments or new business from the committee?
What's our expectations for the February meeting of the stakeholder meeting? What will we be doing?
Well, we'll be hearing back analysis of everything we've heard so far and learning about what's going to be happening in March on the site to help you get folks to get out to the site and to continue to participate. By then too, we'll learn more about the electronic tools and the way we're getting engagement and driving engagement to the site. And I think we'll be maybe hearing more from planning. I know the planning department's planning on speaking again to get those updates like we usually do. The next meeting is Monday, February 25th, Thursday, what day is Monday? The
26.
26th, Monday, thank you, February 26th. You all already have a calendar invite. We're hosting it at the Gilliard in the public meeting room on the first floor. I've got directions in the meeting invite. And of course, we'll send out the agenda before then as well. Thank you. Anything else? Any other new business or questions?
Thanks, Thomas. Thanks, Serena.
Thank you all. Thank you all. Can I get a motion to adjourn the meeting?
Second.
Any opposed? All right, meeting adjourned. Thank you very much.
Goodbye, everybody.
Yeah.